Wrong. Okay, let me start by painting a picture for all of you. Imagine that you are sitting in your living room, in your most comfortable chair, you are lying back, you are closing your eyes, and you're being transferred to another world. Maybe an exotic island where the sun is shining upon your feet and you can jump in the refreshing water. Your family can be there with you, of course. All they have to do is just sit on the chair next to you and join the simulation. Now, as the afternoon is approaching, the girls, they decide to go for a stroll. Maybe check out the latest fashion stores, try on some new clothes. Because after all, in this world, Champs-Élysées is just around the corner. Back at the beach, the guys are sitting back, they're enjoying their beers, and they're watching a beach volleyball match between the national team of Brazil and a team of stormtroopers. Now, as dinner time is approaching, they all decide to meet at the lobby. They get into the elevator, which takes them up to the Japanese mountain range, where they enjoy a platter of sushi and later unwind in the Japanese hot springs while soft snow is falling upon their heads. Sounds nice? Anyone wants to try? Well, this is the vision of what futurologists and science fiction writers have us believe that it will become available by the year 2030. However, I'm standing here in front of you today with some bad news. This idea that someday we'll be able to completely escape our body and become immersed in a different space, it will probably never happen. Now, I know what you're thinking. Keanu Reeves did it 3 times. Jeff Bridges did it before him. He did it in the original Tron in 1982, and then he did it again a few years back in a sequel we all like to forget. But there are a number of movies portraying this idea. We've got Avatar, Johnny Mnemonic, Vanilla Sky, and not just movies. We've got novels. Neuromancer is an amazing novel by William Gibson, one that actually introduced the term cyberspace to the world. We've got TV series. Caprica is a great example. It's the prequel to Battlestar Galactica, where not only the human consciousness is being downloaded onto a machine, but is then later installed onto a humanoid robot. Now, how did this idea of duality, the separation of the body and the mind, really begin? Even though it can be traced back to Plato and Aristoteles, and probably all of the religions, is being attributed mostly to this man, René Descartes, 17th century French philosopher. Descartes, while writing his book, Meditations on First Philosophy, he decided to embark on a quest. He said, I'm going to put all of my beliefs into doubts and see what truly stands true. So, he said, I can doubt that I have a body. Maybe I'm dreaming, or maybe this is the illusion of an evil demon. His words, not mine. But what I definitely cannot doubt is the fact that right now I am thinking. And that led him to his thought, okay, maybe actually the body and the mind are 2 separate things. And of course, led him to his most famous quote. But let's just make a clarification here. When Descartes speaks of the mind, he's not referring to this soft tissue, that organ that all people have in their craniums. Okay, most people have in their craniums. But he's referring to this immaterial substance that allows a person to dream, hope, believe, think. Be aware of the world and our experiences. Now, back to virtual reality. We've got science fiction writers thinking, so we have a body which is placed in the world, and our body, through our sensory organs, it feeds the brain with information, and we get this formation of reality in our mind. So why not, instead of using a body, use a computer? And in that case, the computer can send the information directly to the brain, so we can create our own versions of reality. Sounds nice, right? Simple? Well, not really. Because these neuroscientists came, and they're like, you know what? Well, Descartes was kind of wrong, and we agree on what the philosophers of Descartes' opposing school are saying, that actually the body and the mind are not two different things, and they are actually intertwined, and this union together, it forms the embodied experience that every one of us is currently living. Can the neuroscientists prove this? Well, of course not. We're talking about the human consciousness, one of the most debated and complex mysteries of humankind. But their investigations have given us very interesting results. Antonio Damasio, one of the leading neuroscientists of our times, during his research, he started differentiating between emotions and feelings by saying that emotions are complex reactions that our body has to certain stimuli. So, for example, he says, when we get scared, we have our heart beginning to race, we have the mouths becoming dry, we have our skin getting pale, and we have our muscles contract. Then, and only then, the brain rationalizes this information from the body, and we become scared, and we start feeling fear. Not before. The physical, it precedes everything. So, what are the consequences now for virtual reality? If we try to get immersed in a world, and the body and the mind are two different things, it goes without saying that we will always have an awareness of this double perception. We will always feel like we are leaving something behind, our body. But don't worry, not everything is lost. There is a new methodology for virtual reality, one that is actually using the physical body instead of putting it aside. When I started my PhD research, I joined a digital performance group, and we decided to work on exactly this concept, try to get a dancer to exist simultaneously in two embodied states. The physical stage, where she will be performing, and the virtual stage, and the virtual world, which will be projected onto the stage. Now, during that time, I have experimented with interactive technologies. I have created vast 3D worlds. I have learned how to code. I have traveled across the world, London, Singapore, Japan, Slovenia. I have earned my PhD. I have identified the areas which I need to concentrate in order to get my research further. But if you ask me, which is the most single important thing that I have learned, I will say is the knowledge that I gained, mostly from the dancers, about the human body. Now, Okiyo was a choreographic installation that aimed to immerse the audience into a space made up of virtual and real elements. During the initial design, we came up with this concept. The dancer, she was trapped in this industrial world, a world full of concrete and steel. She was looking for an escape, a place you can find rest, peace, and tranquility. So she decides to create her own world. Just like a shaman, she begins her dance, seeing the concrete around her crack, slowly revealing the nature she longed to see. This longing she has flows out of her body onto her dress, and the dress extends all around her, creating her own fortress of solitude. This world, it has nothing to do with the real world. It has its own time, its own rules. She is the creator of this space. She can invoke trees with her hands. She can make grass and mountains grow. She can call for the sun. She can call for the rain. This is not a static world. This is not the realization of just one vision. It's a world which is constantly shifting and transforming. Every object in this world is connected with each other and consequently connected with its creator. We created a playground for her, one that she can visit as many times as she wants, eternally repeating the process of creation. Now, during the performance, she had to actually show these feelings. She had to show her anger, her desperation, her longing to escape, her eagerness to create, the catharsis she felt after the environment was complete, and the Zen state of relaxation that followed. The virtual space, it was created in real time and projected onto the stage next to her. Her feelings, those feelings that I described, expressed purely by her body movements, they were controlling the evolution of the environment. By using a variety of sensors and camera vision system, she had the power to create a different environment every time that she performed her dance. Now, we sort of created a playground for her, a 3D empty canvas which had paint the way that she wishes. Now, what I find remarkable about working with dancers, especially the ones involved with somatic and the embodic approach, is how differently they see and they experience the world. Through training, they have developed, or rather, they have not lost the ability to listen to their bodies. I'm going to read you a small passage from an academic paper called The Dance, Essence of Embodiment. It's by Betty Block and Judy Leith Kissel, which describes the situation in a very nice way. Most people do not allow their bodies to think. In fact, we are trained from childhood to repress embodied memories or allow the whole body to decide. We value intellect and conventionality above all else and train ourselves to repress the experience that our bodies wish to experience. We are not attuned in an empathetic way to the embodied knowing of others. For me, she continues, communication through dance can be both artistic and personally transformative. I interpret embodied memories into dance, the weight of my heart when a friend moves away, or the lightness and warmth of my husband's breath on my cheek as he sleeps, my mother's hands gracefully attending to me. I create the dance by identifying the inner impulses and matching appropriate efforts and movement qualities with them. For example, the embodiment through movement of something personally tragic can be transformed into a contracting torso, spiraling downward movements, and heaviness. Now, back to Damasio and his research. A dancer's body is attuned in identifying and isolating these emotions before they get rationalized by the brain, before they become feelings. And this is very important, because feelings, they come with our preconceptions. In order to create meaningful interactions in a virtual environment, we need the raw data. We need the emotions, because that's the only data we are going to be able to digitize. Now, how can the body work with technology? I'm sure that most of you here know how to ride a bike. That is not really a manual, right? You just get on a bike and you ride. Does anyone remember the first time they attempted to do this? Well, I certainly don't, but I'm sure there must have been a lot of bruising. Last year, I decided to learn how to snowboard. It was a wonderful experience. You really just, 50% of the time I was sitting down in the snow, the other 50% of the time I was trying to get up. The good news is, when you get home, you don't really want to sit down anymore because it's so damn painful. Interacting in a virtual environment is no different. With Katsura, my dancer, the dancer that we made the performance together, we had to practice and practice and practice. She had to learn the capabilities of the sensors, their limitations, how they reacted to her every movement. In other words, she had to form experiences with them. And when experiences have been formed, just like using a hammer or like using a cane, technology too can turn invisible and become an extension of the user. You just need to have a comfortable level of familiarity with it. Now, being embodied also implies that you are part of a society, part of a culture, and part of a language. They are, after all, trivial to the development of our character. Now, what most people don't realize is that the truths that we live by, they follow us everywhere. It's imperative that we manage to leave them behind if we are ever going to join a second world, a different virtual environment. No matter how much I blow at the floor in the physical space, the floor won't crack. No matter how fast I rotate my hands around, time will not slow down. Trust me, I tried. In a virtual environment, it's a completely different story. Now, virtual worlds, they give us this opportunity to start rethinking about our body. We might never be able to take a machine and hook it up into our brains and read and interpret our memories, dreams, and desires. But you know what? We probably don't have to, because everything that the machines needs in order to get us immersed in a second world, it's here. It's right in front of us. It originates from the body. It sounds strange, but in order to get fully immersed in a different space, first, we need to understand our body and its relationship to this world. I'm going to finish by reading another small passage by the same paper, by Betty Block and Judy Leith Kissel. I create streams of consciousness when I'm dancing that call upon impulsive sensational drives that I probably would not normally release. I will use an example of an unreleased drive given by a friend of mine. He told me he had made a huge commission on a business transaction just before I came into his office to take him to lunch. He said that the stockbroker in him calmly made the transaction from his seat and shook hands with his client. But the kid in him wanted to tap dance on the desk. Normal, civilized adults, like my stockbroker friend, do not usually leap through the air when they're happy or fall to the floor in a tantrum, but dancers do. The body knows what it wants to do. It senses and feels our impulses. However, most people repress those impulses to action, succumb to conventionality, and over time, lose the awareness of the embodied self. Have we lost that awareness? Food for thought. Thank you for your time.